are discussing about heavy metal toxicity and nutrition. Thank you. I'm waving to you, to you, to you. Thank you. Good evening, JJ Special Needs. I am happy to have you. Forgive the, I don't know, it just got in the way, and everything just, when it happens like that, you kind of lose your composure. But tonight we are discussing heavy metal toxicity and nutrition. So just as a way of introduction, my name is Ijoma. I am a, how do I say, autism nutritionist. I don't know if there's anything like that, but that is what I've chosen to do, and that is what I do. So this night, I decided to enlighten us about heavy metal toxicity. So heavy metal toxicity is something that comes up quite often, but the issue is that a lot of mainstream intervention don't get to speak about it. And how we recognize it a lot of times is that people may start seeing symptoms, and then when you approach a hospital or an institution, you say, you can't find anything. You run your tests, you check everything, vitals, and you cannot find anything. So that is why we talk about it as holistic nutrition. Well, holistic health, not necessarily nutrition. So going on today about mental toxicity, I would want to just say that this happens all of us. Yeah, like to admit. Why? Because they are everywhere around us. They are in the kitchen, they are in our bathrooms, they are in our bedrooms, they are in the air we breathe, they are everywhere, like every. What's how does it affect us? Sorry if I'm speaking this way, I'm trying to catch up with YouTube. Even though I'm trying to talk a lot of things at the same time. So I'm looking at so we are looking at heavy metal toxicity that it has become a concern over time. Now, what are the major ones that we see? If you have done test with me, you know that we are always looking at arsenic, mercury, and cadmium. There is also one that is coming on so regularly, not because they are so deadly, but because they are very common around us, especially those of us that are maybe from not very well-to-do background, where there's not so much money that what you have you get to comply with it. And that is because some of the cases we tend to buy tend to be made with this. But why is it very interesting to us? It's interesting to us because neurodivergent people, if you watch our video, content out, when we talk about forever chemicals, we find them as chemicals that stay in the body for so long. If you go to our channel, you will see that So we talked about how forever chemicals are risky for children, for neurodivergent children, because they have a certain genetic factor known as MTHFR. MTHFR. This particular gene makes it very difficult for people to detoxify what goes into the body. Good evening, JJ Special Needs. Good evening. I'm trying to rise. Just a minute. All right. So we say that it is very important to us because neurodivergent people usually have a genetic disposition that makes it difficult for them to identify chemicals from the body. If it was a neurotypical person, they can easily just, get rid of it, as quickly as it comes. But for children, with neurodivergent children, you can actually, they can actually just get in and stay. So in this case, we are very much interested in what it was and how we can mitigate against it. And once again, I'm saying why we need to talk about it is that it's not something you walk into the doctor's office and then he tells you, yeah, you have heavy metal toxicity. No, it doesn't happen. It rarely happens, except if that doctor is like a holistic doctor. But by the time you finish this live video, you will understand why it is necessary that anybody who desires good health should have a knowledge of this. Because we are going to learn what they are, how they enter your body, how they will affect your body, the kind of processes they undergo to actually harm your body. But most importantly, how do we go about reducing the impact on us who can detoxify, but most importantly, on our children who cannot detoxify. So on this occasion, we say um, heavy metal toxicity. Tonight we are going to dissect and split heavy metal toxicity to learn more about what it does and what it doesn't do. So, what are the sources of heavy metal toxicity in our houses? Because we said they can be in the kitchen, they can be in the bathroom, they can be in your bedroom, they can be everywhere, in the air, actually, even in your food. Remember when I said kitchen, I didn't just mean food. It's not just about food. It can be in your utensils, the utensils you use. So, what are those utensils that have the possibility of being heavy metal? I know some of you must have had things like yes, that is number one. Aluminium pots may bring about heavy metal toxicity in the sense that a lot of times when you cook, the things that are in the pot are bound to leach into the food, especially when you are cooking acidic food. Of course, you have to cook when you are steaming your tomatoes, for example. Those of us from Nigeria, we like frying it until it is dry, then you add But as you are frying, you'll be scraping and scraping and scraping. As you are doing this, everything that's in your pot will ultimately be going into the food. That is just one. But I'm going to shock you. There is one particular one. Before now, people will say, if you are running away from it, you can actually go to this. Can anybody suggest to me what it is? Anyone? Anyway, those on YouTube. Can anybody suggest? Okay, so we just continue. So, one very unlikely source of heavy metal is actually ceramic plates. A lot of times, there is tendency to say if you cannot use maybe plastic, you could use ceramic. That ceramic would actually be safer. But tonight we are saying ceramic is necessarily not safe. Why do we say so? Because recently it's been observed that people that use ceramic plates and other utensils, we have ceramic plates, we even have ceramic spoons, we have ceramic pots. Yes, some of these pots that claim to be ceramic, that's the way for another day. So we have ceramic pots, we have ceramic plates, we have ceramic spoons, and they are not necessarily safer. Why? Because in the production of ceramic, it's been observed that because it requires a high level of energy for melting, the industry has looked at what are the ways we can actually save energy when we are melting of ceramics. And they have come up with a method which includes adding lead. Because when they add lead lowers the melting point of ceramic. So in this instance, you see people, they just add lead to ceramic when they are processing it. And this, my friend, is adding a lot of heavy metals to ceramic. So on a very good day, ceramic should be our support, but today it is not so. And then we also look at, we are talking about sources now. So we also look at things like in your, we now move from the kitchen to the bedroom. In your bedroom, if you look at my face, I bet you may think I'm looking for. But I tell you, a lot of things on this face should not be. I remember when I was pregnant with my youngest baby, I will not apply makeup, I will not apply perfume, I will not apply, I was using essential oils as my perfume. So usually when I walk in, I remember Mrs. Agonte of Patrick's speech. She would always say, I know, I could smell it from a distance because I was using essential oil as my perfume then. So for so long I wasn't doing this. I started doing this even before I conceived so that I could prepare my body for my baby. So based on this, we are looking at how is it possible that you will have heavy metals in your cosmetics? Yes, it is true. Some of the cosmetics that you will have heavy metal is, your foundation contains heavy metal. You know this, your eye pencil, your eye pencil contains heavy metal. You know your antiperspirant, your antiperspirant contains metal. And so many things like that. Sometimes even some creams these days contain heavy metal because they want to do everything possible for people to feel feel like they are getting things that probably will never to get old again. So heavy metal toxicity is all around us when it comes to sources. So tonight we are saying, do we just discard this? No, not necessarily. So what are we saying? We are going to come to that later. But we are still talking about what are the sources of this heavy metal. We have talked about ceramic utensils. We have talked about things like aluminium pot. We have talked about cosmetics. But there are other things we have not talked about, and this is tap water. You may say, is it from processing or is it from maybe filtration or where a lot of people may argue that because they are not getting the water from public supply, they don't have issues with that. But that's not true. A lot of the water you have in your house contains heavy metal. Maybe if you're in Nigeria, you may not have much issues because so many houses are being built, newly. We have new homes that are being built. But if you are in a country like the UK, the US, developed countries where you have houses that were built in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 1980s, you will want to check if you have heavy metals in your home. Because a lot of the pipes that were used in those days were actually lead pipes. So if you have lead pipe running through your home, you might actually just be drinking heavy metal. But hey, there is hope here. The hope is that today there are filters. There are filters today that if you put under your sink, this particular filter, I'm going to put the link in the description of this video when I'm done. I have it under my kitchen right now, under the sink. This filter is so good that it filters heavy metals, it filters PFA. The PFA, if you go to our video where we talked about forever chemicals, you will see what we mean by PFA. PFA are per and poly alkyl fluoride substances, PFAs. They are so deadly that they can stay in your body for years, and that is why they call them forever chemicals. But tonight we are getting to know that there are filters you can put under your sink. The beautiful thing about this filter is that you don't even need your plumber to put it. I put my by myself. I just went under my sink, remove the cold water, and attach the filter to the cold water outlet, and then the other side of it to the cold water inlet. It is that simple. So that even the water you are using to wash your food is filtered. You don't want to filter only the water you are drinking. It's true, the water you are drinking from the cold outlet is now filtered, but in addition to that, all the water you using to wash your food, assuming you have a dishwasher, yeah, all the water you're using to wash your plate, all the water you're using to wash your food, all the water you're using to wash your vegetables, everything is filtered. And guess what again? You have your filter for one whole year before you get to change it. So this is like a good relief. But hey, we are talking about sources, and the source we are discussing right now is water. The water in your home can be very toxic to you, can be very toxic to your young one, especially to your neurodivergent child. We have talked about cosmetics, which is our everyday hygiene products. I will use this opportunity to talk about something else that is not necessarily heavy metal, but it's very common in our everyday hygiene products, which is fluoride. Fluoride is in our everyday hygiene product, which is toothpaste. It can also be in water, and this filter can actually help you filter all of this. So this fluoride is neurotoxic. It's not heavy metal, but it is in our everyday hygiene products. Another source of heavy metal can be the food you eat. Tonight, I am going to tell you something you probably know, or maybe you don't know. Do you know that the rice you eat is a very high source of arsenic? It doesn't matter where, when most times it matters where it is cultivated, because rice is known to be able to absorb a lot of arsenic from the soil and from the environment. The rice you eat, which I know that 80%, let me just be modest, that 80% of us must consume at least a rice meal at least twice a week. I'm just being modest. I know people that consume it up to 3 times, up to 4 times. Rice is a good, in fact, a wonderful source of arsenic if there is anything like that. If a bad thing can be wonderful, you can say that rice is a wonderful source of arsenic. But how do we manage it? It might look complicated, it might look simple. But the fact is that if you wash your rice with cold water, wash your rice with cold water at least 3 to 4 times. Run the water at least 3 to 4 times with cold water. Don't do it with hot water, because any 10-degree rise in temperature doubles reaction. So if you do it with hot water, you have already incorporated everything into the rice. But if you run your rice through cold water, at least 3 to 4 cycles, you are reducing arsenic level by up to 20%. If you run your rice through cold water 3 to 4 times, you are reducing the arsenic level up to 20%. So please, if you're going to be eating rice, eat your rice, but eat it in a healthy way. Run your rice through cold water 3 to 4 times, and you will be reducing the amount of arsenic by 20%. I bet if you can reduce everything by 20%, you will do your body a whole lot of good. So we have talked about the different sources of arsenic. We have talked about tap water, where you can install a filter under your tap. We have talked about food, where you know that if you run your rice under cold water 3 to 4 times, you are reducing by 30%. We have talked about hygiene products. I don't know how a lot of people can do away with that, but I just told you when it's critical, you can actually do it. When I was pregnant, when I was trying to have my baby, I had to stop. And there are actually very healthy natural alternatives. You won't believe it, the cream I'm rubbing now is made from fat, from tallow, cow fat, tallow from cow. I wish I had brought it. It's natural, and then they use the essential oil to make it to scent it. So the one for the face, they use things like lemon that will brighten your face. Then the ones for the body, they use other essential oils that make it really nice. But I tell you, there are very natural alternatives to a lot of things we put on our body that introduce heavy metals. So heavy metals are in your cosmetics, they are in your household items, they are in your tap water, they are in your food, they are in the air. A lot of factories produce heavy metal fumes. How did I know this? I mean, this is known fact, but how do I explain it to you? I have done a lot of tests for children in Nigeria, and I tell you today that if you cover the name of a child and where the child lives on a test today, I can tell you which part of the country that child is living, because we have run a lot of tests and we realize that children living in Port Harcourt are usually having excessive amount of toxicants in their blood. It's amazing and appalling at the same time. Children that live in Port Harcourt, you don't want to see their we run heavy metal toxicity test and we run toxicity non-heavy metal. These children are like carrying so much load in their system and walking around. Those children in Lagos are mostly having the kind of chemicals that come from food. Children in Port Harcourt are having mostly chemicals that come from air. Children in northern parts have mostly chemicals that come from the soil. We have a lot of children in northern parts that have a lot of mercury because they have mercury in their soil. And we have a lot of children in Port Harcourt, they have a lot of plastic related pollutants in their blood. We have a lot of children in Lagos that have pollutants that are mostly from food items, where you have all of these imported food and everything on the shelf. It's amazing, but this is a fact. I'm telling you from several tests we have run with children in Nigeria. So for you to see that these things are everywhere, they are almost everywhere, and the more you know about them, the more you'll be more prepared to, mitigate against them. So at this point, we are looking at the mechanism. How do heavy metal affect the body? How does it affect the body? Let's look at mercury for instance. Mercury, we have mercury more from seafoods. A lot of times you see mercury from seafoods, not because they are just there sitting for them to come and absorb, but because these animals they move around a lot. You can actually be catching a fish here, but you don't know that that fish actually came from all the way from Asia or wherever the river carries them to. So there was this accident many years ago. I don't know the exact name. But because of this and because of increased industrial actions where a lot of industries actually, dissipate their waste into the sea, we have a lot of fishes, a lot of sea animals that are laden with heavy metals, especially mercury. So what do we do if you have to eat seafoods? I'm sorry, I was supposed to like just finish the sources and talk about mitigation, but please, if you are following me, you can understand that each of them I'm trying to say how you can mitigate each of them. So how do you manage to still eat seafood without actually hurting yourself with heavy metals? When we talk about fish, we are asking that if you have to buy fish, we know that it's always good to eat big, fat fish, but they may not be the best. If you go to buy fish, it is advised that you buy the ones that are not have not stayed for so long, that have not accumulated a lot of heavy metals. So if I am to buy fish now, if I'm buying Titus, I buy it. If I'm buying Titus, what Nigerians call Titus, if I see this big Titus and I see this big Titus, I would rather go for this big Titus than this size of Titus. I'll go for the small Titus. Why? Because the smaller ones have probably stayed, the bigger ones have probably stayed longer in the sea. And in this process, they have accumulated a lot and a lot of mercury. I saw one restaurant, how do we call it? They call it joint, where they were selling this very fat fish. They say they are selling one for 5 million naira. but one crazy amount. And I'm like, even if you dash me that fish, I will eat it. Because they would have accumulated a lot of heavy metals. And then somebody was saying that if you go for like these people that rear fish, that some of them, because there are so many in one container, they may be old but they'll still be looking small. Those are outliers, like it's not a regular thing. But regularly, smaller fishes are healthier than bigger fishes. Smaller seafoods are a bit safer than bigger seafoods. So let it just be like a rule in your head that if you're buying seafood and you want to avoid heavy metal, try to go for the smaller ones, not small by nature, but small in size. And we know there are ones that are small in nature. But if you're buying the ones that are big in nature, buy the smaller versions of the big ones. Thank you for joining me. So there is also okay, now we want to look at how these heavy metals are affecting the body. So mercury is one of them that are known to cross the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is like a thin layer that separates your brain system from the other parts of the system. It is not everything that crosses it, but whatever crosses it goes into the brain. So they have neurological effects. Are you here? You have a neurodivergent child. You have to be concerned about this. Mercury crosses the blood-brain barrier and it causes things like cognitive anomalies, problems with cognitive functions, which is what we have a lot in neurodivergent children. They also cause memory problems and mood swings. Our babies, we know mood, mood, mood. So when these children when it is about a child, a neurodivergent child, we know that they also do extra things like affecting their neurotransmitter function. Our children are not their neurotransmitters are not very efficient, and that's why a lot of people think that they cannot feel, that they don't fear, they don't have sense of fear, they don't have sense of danger. That's not true. They have all of those senses, but because their neurotransmitters are not as fast as your own and my own, they don't get to feel it immediately it is happening, just like every other one does. So we are now seeing tonight that mercury can actually affect that neurotransmitter function in neurodivergent children. However, in the general public, it can affect memory, it can affect mood, and it can also affect cognitive functions. So that is mercury for you. This is what mercury does, and we realize that mercury is one of the heavy metal that we can find in seafoods. Another place we find mercury a lot is in salt. A lot of us on all of these Himalayan salts. Himalayan salt, some sea salts may also be sources of mercury. Another very unlikely places is maybe if your bulb has broken or maybe the thermometer has broken in the house. These are some of the places you can get mercury contamination, but in most cases, mercury are coming from seafood. So looking at lead here, lead is one other heavy metal that affects neurodivergent children, especially as it pertains learning difficulties and behavioral problems. So this is why a lot of times when you approach us, we ask you to carry out the test on heavy metals. A lot of parents tend to not see the connection. Why should I be testing heavy metals? I thought you are talking about nutrition. I will also talk about how nutrition affects all of these things. So lead, for instance, can affect children with learning difficulties. I am going to give you an example. Remember, everything I'm saying here is for education, educative purpose, or however language it is. Don't go and do this until you have consulted with a healthcare professional. When my daughter had realized she had heavy mental toxicity, we did chelation. I will tell you the kind of chelation so that you will not go and start doing it yourself. We did chelation, and we did this chelation for 2 years. Within the first 3 4 months was when she started making her very first, you know, coherent sentence. So this was like an eye opener for us. I am not asking you to go to chelation. I'm just telling you what I did. And please, you have to consult a healthcare professional to guide you in any form of chelation. So lead here is one of the heavy metals that is associated with learning difficulties and behavioral problems. Why? Because it interferes with the brain development. When children are having lead, too much lead in the system, it can lead to interference in the development of the brain. And this is very, very harmful for children who already have the tendency to become neurodivergent. Now talking about aluminium. Aluminium is one that is emerging, even though they may not be like so harmful, like I mentioned in the beginning. They can be linked to very serious health problems when they continue accumulating. There's a story, it's not a story, it's a research, it's a known fact that there were men that started working in men that were working in factories when they produce aluminium pots, they handle aluminium every day. And it happens that towards their older age, they were found to have Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease was one, and they didn't have children with neurodivergent tendencies, but most of their grandchildren. So it was like an accumulation in their gene that continued producing, that went ahead to continue to accumulate even as far as their grandchildren, because they were working in factories that were handling aluminium. So when we say that aluminium is not so harmful, it is not entirely true, because it kind of accumulates, it seeps in, it kind of just takes time and be occupying the territory and be collecting levies until when it will strike. So we see that the most difficult aspect of learn is that in older years, when they have accumulated enough, they tend to cause Alzheimer's disease. It's their own effect is more of a neurodegenerative disease. But for neurodivergent children, they tend to make them to be hypersensitive, hypersensitivity. You know, there are children that everything when they go out, they cover their ear. When they hear any little noise, it disrupts them. When they are out, they can't handle the noise. I remember when my daughter also was so sensitive, she wouldn't wear underwears. She wouldn't use pad for her menses because of hypersensitivity. And tonight, we are learning that the aluminium can actually cause this level of hypersensitivity in our neurodivergent children. So please, parents, next time when we are talking about heavy metal, don't think that it doesn't have anything to do with us. We have seen it now that apart from what it does to the public, these are things it does to neurodivergent children. Mercury worsens it and interferes with the neurotransmitter. Lead disrupts the development of the brain. You can imagine something being, totally disrupted. It was moving this way, and then all of a sudden something just cuts it short, and then it starts going helter skelter. There is a topic that would have I would have used to illustrate this, but let's just continue. Then we also say that aluminium, as much as it causes one of a neurodegenerative disease, in children, in neurodivergent children, it causes them to be more, hypersensitivity. They get affected by every little noise, every little touch. They don't want to be hugged. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to wear any kind of clothes. And believe me, even the kind of food they eat, they become really, really sensitive. So these are the things it does to neurodivergent children, apart from what it does to the general public. Then there is this one, they work hand in hand, cadmium and arsenic. Cadmium and arsenic are two heavy metals that affect the oxidative nature of the body. We say that oxidative damage is like the beginning of death. Like it affects the cells of the body, and it's like frying your body. Your body is just undergoing oxidation. And the fact that we grow old, the fact that we wrinkle, the fact that we get sick to an extent are all products of oxidative stress. And now we are saying that cadmium and arsenic are the chief messengers of oxidative stress. And guess what? They also damage the brain cells. As they are bringing oxidative stress to other cells of the body, they are actually damaging the brain cells. So, but in neurodivergent children, they affect the attention span, another cognitive function. So when you believe that your child is not paying attention, is is not responding to you, is not having, is not responding to the environment like every other child, even before you begin to, you know, seek all the therapies, it would be nice. It would be nice to check the heavy metal toxicity level of that child. I am telling you what I have done. When we tackled heavy metal, we saw the biggest changes. To tell you how bad heavy metals can be. These are just the ones you know, like we are talking about now. There are other things they do in your body, we are still talking. So let's continue. So when we are talking about heavy metal toxicity, increasing sensitivity, increasing reducing transmitter function, reducing cognitive abilities, increasing heightened cognitive challenges, reducing attention and memory. All these are the impacts of heavy metals in the bodies of neurodivergent children. And believe me, if we can look at heavy metal and tackle it heads on, there is no child that you can do this for without you will see a remarkable improvement. But I wouldn't want to go like seriously into the chemistry of what happens. It's just that in the research world, it is always good that when you talk about what is happening, you have to talk about what is the mechanism of action. How does it happen? So that people will know that okay, it is not just it doesn't just come from the air and attack. For the purpose of the YouTube or live streaming, it could get boring. I wouldn't want to go very much into it, but just to tell you on kind of a general note, one of the things it does is that it binds to proteins and enzymes. They bind to protein and enzymes, and you know what this can mean. They are making them less available to the body. They are making these proteins and enzymes, we call them bioavailability. They are reducing the bioavailability of these nutrients to the body. And we know what protein and enzymes could do in the life of, in metabolism, let alone in the life of growing children. So these heavy metals tend to bind to protein and enzymes, and like we have pointed out before, they also cause oxidative stress. And this oxidative stress is that they induce the production of reactive oxygen species. And when reactive, when you smell oil that is spoiling, that is oxidation. That is more like a destructive reaction. It is spoiling the cells. It is not killing but destroying them, decaying the cells. That is oxidation. And this is what heavy metals do to the body. They produce reactive oxygen species, which is the basis of oxidative stress. So if you kind of introduce something like the antioxidants, we all know how important antioxidants are: vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. These are all the ways you can actually mitigate oxidative stress. But don't forget that you can't just go ahead and start mitigating their impact without removing what is causing it. So in this case, heavy metal need to be eliminated for you to be actually free. So if you are looking at reducing heavy metal toxicity in your body, you should also look at, while you are doing the reduction, you can also be introducing things like antioxidants to help the body to manage the impact that it has already created in the body. But just like I mentioned in the other, when I was talking about aluminium, about men that worked in a factory that were handling mercury, and they went ahead to produce grandchildren that were neurodivergent. Guess what? This is because heavy metals disrupt cellular signaling. Like the how do I say, the way that cells communicate with each other. Heavy metals disrupt this process of communication in between cells, between one another. The heavy metal just comes and interferes with everything, and they okay, every activity in your body is dependent on interaction between your cells, right? So if your cell, for instance, is telling your body that you are feeling cold, that it should maybe generate heat, and they are not able to do this because there is heavy metal. We have seen a lot of children that, because they are neurodivergent, when it is cold, they don't feel cold. They don't feel cold. They wear whatever they want to wear. When it is hot, they can wear jackets. This is because there is interference in the way the body, the way the cells are interacting with each other. So we call them, they come and pretend that they are calcium ions. And you know that in every cell there is potassium and calcium inside and outside of the cell. So it is the movement of this potassium and calcium that determines the message across cells. So if the heavy metals come, they will pretend that they are calcium. But when it is time to perform the action, they refuse to act because they are like saboteurs. They are just pretending to be what they are not. So this These are the ways that heavy metal actually interfere with your body system. I mean, with our children's body system, even ours. It's just that to an extent, we are able to control ours because if we do not have the anti-HFR gene, the body has a good system of detoxification to a large extent and not sometimes not totally. But for neurodivergent children, like I said in the beginning, a lot of them have this genetic disposition that makes it difficult for them to detoxify. And that is why it is important that we are talking about this tonight. So that you know when you see these things in your child, you know what is actually happening. And then one other mechanism of action is by accumulating in your organs. Let me just give you an analogy. If your child has heavy metals, there is tendency that that child will have leaky gut. Ask me how. Because heavy metals tend to provide shield for microorganisms, for bad microorganisms. They act like shield for them, so they go and hide in their body. Such that even if you continue to do things that will help to remove them, they have a protector inside your body. And what happens is that by the time you finish whatever you're doing, they will come out and continue their activities. So a lot of children we see that they have signs of leaky gut. Maybe they are not eating well, or maybe they are eating but it's not showing on the body, or maybe they have a lot of gastrointestinal disorder. There is always a likelihood that they have heavy metal toxicity. And this is because heavy metals will just go and liaise with bad microbes and shield them from whatever you are trying to do. And in that process, the child continues to suffer. Each time you give him food, they share it. After sharing it, they start digging, they start walking. And the children continue suffering and suffering, and you will be like, I don't get it. What is exactly happening? You don't know there is something inside the body that is shielding the bad people, I mean bad microbes, from whatever you think you are doing to help your child. So if you are working on getting your child reducing the level of bad microbes in your child, maybe you are using antiviral or nutrition or increasing the probiotic, you might as well try removing heavy metals, because without this your efforts might just be, cut into half. The heavy metals will be jeopardizing your efforts. Now there is this one that is very common. A lot of parents experience it, and it comes in so many ways, which is disruption of mitochondrial function. Mitochondria is the part of the cell that converts the food your child eats to energy. So when heavy metals is interfering, they call it powerhouse. When heavy metal is interfering with the mitochondria, what we see in children a lot of times is a child who has a a a problem with motor skills. The child might be very strong, climbing everywhere, jumping the whole house, scattering everything. But when the teacher tells him or her to hold the pen, he will cry. When the teacher brings pencil, he will cry. Why? Because holding that pencil is painful. When a child has a mitochondrial dysfunction or a mitochondrial problem, they have fine motor skill issues. The child may not want to hold pencil, but he will climb. If you give him chance, he will climb to the roof of your house, but he will not hold pencil. So you'll be wondering, my child is so strong. When we want to hold him, he will fight everybody. But when it's time to write, he refuses to write. Not because he doesn't want to write, but because holding a pen is painful. In such children, we also see things like they don't want to chew food. They cannot chew food. If you give them food, they can't chew. It's either they swallow them or they refuse to eat. That is another thing we see in children with mitochondrial dysfunction. In such a child also, we can see a child that when he poos, you see pieces of solid food in their poo. Why? Because the tummy was not able to undergo peristaltic movement enough to churn the food he or she has eaten. So children with mitochondrial dysfunction, sometimes they have constipation. Why? Because the muscles of the anus is not strong enough to to be able to, to contract or expand to be able to bring out the excreta. So you can see how bad heavy metals can be to our children. So children, the heavy metal, when it disrupts the mitochondrial dysfunction, you can see a child who finds it really difficult to write, to hold pencil, to do little things. A child who is not chewing his food, we have a lot of our children that cannot chew their food. You have a child who is not digesting his food properly, and you also have a child who may be highly constipated because the muscles of the rectum are not able to contract or expand according to the need. So this is now another way you know how heavy metal toxicity functions. And then there's epigenetic changes. Epigenetic changes is the one that affects people up to second generation. They disrupt the DNA methylation, they disrupt histone modification, they just disrupt everything. And then things are no longer as they should be. Then there is also the endocrine disruption. Your endocrine is more like your hormones and the hormonal system. So in adults, you can see when adults are having sexual dysfunctions, you have things like erectile dysfunction, dryness in older people, and you are wondering where it's coming from. A lot of people just conclude that it is old age. Not really. It is not always old age. Arsenic and cadmium can actually disrupt your functions. So when you are looking at certain activities in your body and nobody is giving you an answer, it might be good to look at heavy metal toxicity. And then there is also the immune system suppression. Immune system suppression is where you realize that you are no longer able to fight off diseases. Everything that passes, you collect. When there is cold in the community, you are the first to collect. When there is chicken pox, you just bring basket. Everything that goes by, you must collect. So, and you are wondering why. Why is it so? Just know that things like cadmium and lead can actually disrupt your immune system. It will disrupt it such that you will not be able to hold it together when it comes to immunity. So, dear brothers and sisters, I don't know what to call you, but dear listeners, tonight we have talked about heavy metal toxicity. We talked about how they come into our homes, our bodies, which is through your household utensils, cosmetics, everyday hygiene products, your tap water, the air you breathe, the food you eat, your fruits and vegetables. And then we also provided some solutions that each of them, there are alternatives. There are lots of alternatives. The only one we didn't have alternative is the one that comes from the air. And as much as we cannot control that one. We can do things like sauna bath to help our body to continue to, push it off. Sauna bath is a very good way of detoxification. When we get parents also to do things like Epsom salt bath. Epsom salt is a very wonderful bath that can detoxify heavy metal and at the same time introduce magnesium into your body. So these are ways that heavy metals get into our body. These are also few ways we can help to remove them. And then we talked about how do they affect our body. We said that they can disrupt your immune system, they can disrupt your, you know, I don't know the system again, but the hormonal system. They can disrupt the hormonal system, they can disrupt the immune system, they can accumulate in your body. They can also aid the functions of some unwanted processes in your body. So, and in our children especially, we saw that heavy metal can cause increased hypersensitivity. It can increase cognitive problems, which can cause them not to, to reduce the level of understanding and cognitions. It can also affect uh, a lot of processes in the body, like when we look at immunity, that it can also affect, the way they perceive their environment, okay, more like the hypersensitivity. So in our children, we see that heavy metal plays a very crucial role in all they do. Like a lot of their behaviors have been captured in what we just spoke about. So these are like the major highlights of tonight. So the question I have for you: are you a parent with a child, with a neurodivergent child? Are you an adult and you are experiencing some of the things we have mentioned here tonight? Do you think that having a heavy metal toxicity check can help you? Seriously, if I were you, my answer would be, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. It is going to help me, not just when it has become so bad, but it can also serve as a preventive approach to health. Because as you can see in adults, it may not, something like aluminum may not come today. It can accumulate and develop into what we call Alzheimer's disease, allowing us to not to have that kind of disease at all. And you see that you might not just be protecting yourself alone, you might also be protecting your unborn children. So tonight, I will encourage you, if you are experiencing any of these things we've talked about, please look for a healthcare professional. At Brain Foods, we help people, whether locally, we have partners, laboratory partners, we have partners in Nigeria, we have partners in the United States, we have partners in the United Kingdom, we have partners anywhere you are. So we can support you to take this test, and a lot of people have come to take back their health just by realizing the heavy metal toxicity, their status, and doing something about it. So, dear listeners, it's been a wonderful night. I have exceeded my time by 10 minutes. I didn't know I was going to stay this long. Forgive me. And I will want to discuss next time about medical tests, which is what we introduced today. What are the kind of tests you may take, especially if you're a neurodivergent parent? What are those tests that can help you to draw a roadmap to identify which direction to go with your child. We know there are lots of things out there. People will come and tell you, I just did this and this happened. Have you sat down to ask them which test did you do for you to find out that you have to do this? A lot of times parents just do this, do that, do that, do that, without actually knowing how the other person arrived to what they were doing. And I tell you, if you want to do this journey, the fastest way to get to your destination is to do a medical test. By the time you do a medical test, you will see it's like a map. It's like I am going to this place and I have a map. You just be taking it one after the other. It's so good than you just sitting down and guessing. I think this one helps children with dyslexia. Jump. 3 months you are out. I think this one helps. And you jump 3 months you are out. Please do your test and draw a plan. Your test is your map. It is your roadmap. Thank you so much for tonight and see you again next week, Wednesday. Please keep a date with me. I want to be with you every Wednesday evening by 9 p.m. I want to be with you. I want to tell you the things I know and I want to work with you. I want us to achieve these things together. It is enough that we have this body. It's not the body. It's enough that we have this challenge, but it is also a good thing that we walk the walk together. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. If you have question, we have okay, you said infrared. Well, I don't okay, detoxification. Yeah. There's sauna bath. Sauna bath is what I know. There is also there is also why do I forget it and I love it so much? Epsom salt bath. Sauna bath and Epsom salt bath, they are very good ways you can actually gently and safely be removing heavy metals from your body. I didn't get to talk about the nutrition part because it's kind of tricky. There are spices you can use, but you have to know where you stand for you to be able to use those spices. Otherwise, you may be harming yourself. My time is where we will fast spent. If you want to know more about the spices, you can send me questions. I'll be happy to answer. Please go to our YouTube channel. Send me any question you have. I'll be happy to answer you. If it is very important to me, you can even use it as a topic. I promise. Please, I'll be happy, like very happy to answer you. I have to go. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. JJ Social Needs. Oyinda, don't come and wave at me online. You better call me. You are not my friend again. Bye. Thank you. Bye.